I believe that black people have to have a different relationship with white people today. Black people have to start embracing white people, start being more respectful, and start being more of a learner, more of a student of white culture, learning as much as you can so you can advance. And if I think black people change their attitude, things would turn around for the better. Now, let's look at white people, how they got to where they've arrived in their civilization. When you look at the Germanic tribes that existed at the time of the Roman Empire, or even the Roman Republic, these tribes were very primitive, very much barbarians, as the Greeks called them. They had no civilization at all. They were just a bunch of vandals who would run around and plunder, take over environment, and just pillage everything. They couldn't build a civilization. They put up a fierce resistance against the Romans for many years. Julius Caesar, all these different generals went in and tried to take over the regions, and they had to they had to really make an effort to do it, but they did. And once they did, over time, these Germanic tribes started to become Romanized. And you know they became Romanized because you can look at the language, you can look at their political systems, you can look at their culture. It's very much Roman and Greek culture made into a European sort of context. That's really what it is. You could look at the language, like let's say French. French words, many of the words are based in Latin and Greek. You go to English, same thing. The English words are, most of them are Greek or Latin. But what comes from Greece and Rome? Well, not only is there words, but there's science, mathematics, engineering, all these things that built their civilization to make it what it is. They were able to be beneficiaries of all that knowledge, and they built upon what they left behind and enhanced it and made it better. And that was why they were able to become a dominant civilization by the time the colonialism started in the 14th, 15th century. I think blacks ought to take the same approach because that approach works. And we don't have just that example of the Europeans. We can also look at Russia. Peter the Great was the first czar that took an active interest in looking at the West from a very friendly manner to where he can learn from them and he can grow. When Peter the Great traveled to the West to learn as much as he learned a lot of things. He learned shipbuilding, he learned engineering, he learned metalwork, he learned all these skills. And he was able to take all that knowledge back to Russia. And he enacted measures to try to modernize Russia. He tried to change the way the Russians dress. He tried to cut the beards of many of the noblemen. He tried to even replace the Russian language with Dutch. He was so serious in making Russia a modern power. And why did he want to do this? Because he saw how backward Russia was. He saw that Russia was so far behind the West that it'd take many, many years to catch up. And if they don't catch up, they can be pretty much under the foot of the West. And so he thought ahead. And with that knowledge, he built a city, St. Petersburg today. He was able to build Russia a navy. They didn't have a navy before he was czar. Those rudiments, that foundation that he built, Russia took that and became a superpower alongside America by the time of the 20th century. So that tells you that this is the way that empires grow. This is the way civilizations grow. You copy what other civilizations have done before you, you enhance on it, you improve upon it, you put your own spin on things according to how you are as a people, and then you're able to now grow and advance. If the Europeans did not learn from the Romans and the Greeks, they would still be savage barbarians pillaging that continent all over the place. I guarantee you they would not be as civilized as they are. If Russia did not learn from the West, it would be a backward society that wouldn't have the technology to fight America in a Cold War, and they would be under the thumb of the West. That's just how it goes. So blacks ought to look upon whites and say, wait a minute, these people are advancing much more than us. They've conquered us. We were slaves under their system. Let's learn the system so we never have to be in this position again. And if blacks do this and they're sensible enough to do this, the dividends that they can produce in the next, let's say, 50, 100, 200 years would be astounding, because generations after us would bear the fruit of the work that we're doing today. And so I say that blacks ought to change their relationship, change their mentality, change how they look at white people. Instead of being angry and very hostile towards them, you ought to look at them with a little bit of respect and learn from them, grow from them, so then you can be better. And that's the best way to go.